Hello friends and fashion lovers, welcome and welcome back. Thank you for all your love and support, and thank you for clicking on this video. In today's tutorial, I'll be showing you how I make this lovely petal dress for a girl. If you are here for the first time, my name is Esther and I love to sew for girls and ladies. If that sounds like what you are interested in, please click on that subscribe button and don't forget to turn on the notification bell so that you won't miss any of the future uploads. Thank you for doing that. To get started, we'll be drafting the bodice first. And the measurements you need for the bodice is displayed on the screen. Here I am marking my zipper allowance of 1 inch, and that will be for the back. I'll be drafting both the back and the front on this pattern paper. So next is to mark guideline, and it will also serve as my shoulder line. Then from the shoulder line, I am going to mark the chest line, then the bodice length. Then I'll go ahead and extend the markings. Please, I've included seaming allowance in this pattern, so do well to include seaming allowance in your pattern. So first I'm going to mark half the shoulder width measurement. Since it's a sleeveless dress, I'm going to subtract 3/4 of an inch, not forgetting to add my seaming allowance to that. Then I'm going to still put that same marking on the chest line. Then I'll go ahead and mark the neck width. Then the neck dip for the front and for the back. So I'm going to connect all that quickly. So next is for me to put my shoulder slope. So on my chest line, I am going to put 1/4 of the chest measurement plus ease and also my seaming allowance. So on the waistline, I am just going to put the measurement that I have on the chest line on the waistline. So if your child has a more defined waistline, please do well to put the 1/4 of the waist measurement plus ease and seaming allowance. Then to connect the armhole, I am just going to find the midpoint between the slope and the chest line, then go in by about 1/2 inch, and I'm going to connect to form the armhole right there. At this point, all I'll do is just cut out my pattern. The pattern is ready. So for my fabric, I'm using 2 yards of white satin fabric, colored satin fabric, 1/2 yard. You can use your leftovers, and 3 yards of tulle and lining, then can, zipper, and the rest. I'm going to use my pattern and cut out my fabric. I'm going to do this both for the back borders and for the front, and I'm going to add a little bit of my shimmering net on it just to tie the whole look in together. So here are my pieces. I have the back and I have the front pieces, and all of them I also cut out a lining for them and also a net. Yes, my net has a bit of the shimmer on it, so I'm just going to put that net to just tie in the whole look. So here I am going to place my net on top of my main fabric, which is the satin. Obviously I use satin for both the lining and the fashion fabric. So I'm going to put the net on it and make sure that I secure that in place. So you can tack that down, glue, gum that down, whatever, just secure that in place first. With my tulle secured on top of my fashioned fabric, I am going to go ahead and place my lining piece, making sure to have them right side facing. I'm going to pin that in place. So I'm going to stitch the neckline and the armhole for the back and also for the front, just the neckline and the armhole. After stitching the neckline and the armholes, going with my scissors and give it notches. Please, if you do have a lot of seaming allowance, you can cut back on the seaming allowance. After notching all the cuffs, I'm going to turn just the front part of my bodice. I'm going to turn it right side out. And I'm doing this just for the front. I'm not turning the back of the bodice right side out. I am turning just the front of the bodice right side out. After turning the front side of my bodice right side out and the back still maintaining its position, that's the wrong side facing up, I am going to sandwich the front of my bodice in between the fashion fabric and the lining of the back bodice. And when you do this, you have to ensure that you have the right side facing each other, meaning that the lining of the front bodice should be facing the lining of the back bodice, while the fashion fabric, that's the part that I attach the tool to, should be facing the back part that the tool has been attached to. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch the shoulder. After stitching the shoulder, try and cut back the bulk. Cut back the bulk and reveal the right side. Just turn the back over and you have the right side. Then next you place the side of the bodice right side facing each other and you are going to be stitching it. So now the bodice is ready. For the skirt, I just folded my fabric lengthwise and I'm going to go ahead and mark the radius. To have the radius of a half circle skirt, you divide the waist circumference by 3.14. The waist circumference is divided by 3.14, and that is the radius of the skirt. So I've just marked the radius right here, and I'm going in to make it much bolder. For the length of the skirt is a factor of the dress length minus the bodice length. Please don't forget to add your seaming allowance. I use 1 inch seaming allowance because I'll be using ½ inch to roll hem, and the other ½ inch will go into me attaching the skirt to the bodice to make it a dress. So please don't forget to include your seaming allowance to your skirt length. So with that, I'm pretty much done with the marking of the skirts. So it's just to cut it out. So here I have my tool folded. So I've folded here double my skirt length. Yes, you want to have double your skirt length. You're going to be sandwiching your skirt in the middle of your tool. You want to use double your skirt length to cut your tool. So after cutting my tool, what I'll do will be to gather to fit the waistline. Now for the petals, I just cut out the strip and the width of the strip is 2.5 inches. You can make it lower than that. You can make it bigger than that, depending on what you want. I just basically fold the strip and I'm cutting out a petals shape. You can make it round, whatever shape you choose, just cut it out. You're the designer. So I'm just going to keep cutting. So what I basically do at this point is just passing it through fire just to conceal that raw edges. You know that, flame has a way of sealing polyester fabric or the synthetic fabric. It has a way of sealing it. Back to our skirt, I have roll hem our skirt. I have roll hem it. That's how to roll hem. You just fold it over twice and you hem the bottom as little as you can. I used about ½ inch to roll hem. So after roll hemming, it's time to lay the skirt flat, and you're going to start playing around with your petals to see how you want it to fit. So when it comes to this petals laying, it's totally up to you. Whatever design you choose, just go for it. This too can be done with leftover fabric, all those leftover fabric that you have. You can bring it out, especially those satin, bright color satin fabric that you have in your stash. You can bring it out and just do something like this. So next is for me to go in with my glue gun. Yes, I'm using a glue gun to attach to this gum. So just put a gum from hot glue gun. So just basically have my petals in place using it. So I'm going to keep going, and I'll do it for all. Please, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, what are you waiting for? Please subscribe. And if you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. So it's better that you lay it out so that you have an idea how you want the petals to look on the skirt. Yes, for the lining, it's just a long strip that will be roll hem at the bottom and gathered at the waist. So if you want extra volume, just go ahead and add can to it. For more volume, you can gather the can or you plait it, but gathering is what I would subscribe to. And this was done for me by a 6-year-old. So this is the skirt. It's still open. So the next thing I'm going to do is just stitch close the back that is going to house the zipper, leaving about 3 inches at the top for my zipper extension. So here is my skirt that you've seen. I've stitched close the back opening and left about 3 inches up for my zipper extension. I'm going to set the skirt aside. So to my tulle now, I have gathered my tulle, both the down part and the other part. So don't forget, my tulle was 2 times my skirt length, meaning that if I fold it over, it's my skirt length. So I am going to go ahead and stitch close this my tulle, leaving about 3 inches opening as well on both sides. So by the time I stitch close, it's going to look more like a tube. So just for clarity, what I mean by stitch close, this is my tulle, and the longest part I've gathered the upper and the lower part. Don't forget it's 2 times the skirt length. That's 2 times the skirt length. So I have done the gathering for the 2 sides. So I've gathered them up nicely. So it's time for me to stitch it close, leaving 3 inches up and 3 inches down. So just stitch the remaining, just mark your 3 inches and stitch the remaining. So that's just the paper illustration for it. After gathering, just stitch it close. So that's what I'm going to do right away. I have done that already. So now it's time for me to put my skirts in between these two. So it's just a matter of you take the skirt and you sandwich it in between the two. After stitching the tulle and the skirt together, this is how it looks. So basically, I'm using the tulle to cover my rose petals so that it's not everywhere. It looks quite neat and safe inside. If you want more petals like me that have a reasonable leftover, I just tuck it in. But this step is totally optional. I didn't have use for it, so I just decided to just put the extra in there. That's after I might have made a bow for this dress, the bow that you saw. Now it's time to put our dress together by bringing in the lining. I've as well gathered the lining. Sorry, not me. The 6-year-old gathered the lining and put the can on it. And at the bottom of the lining is hem. And don't forget our bodice was ready initially, so it's time to stitch all this together. Make sure that you place your lining to the lining. Make sure that the right side facing, you pin it in place and you go ahead and stitch. And when you stitch, the inside of it should be pretty smooth while the raw edge is in between. And also for your main fabric, you want to do the same. That's for the fashion fabric, the side that you have the petals on it. So you want to have it right side facing and you pin it in place and go ahead and stitch as well. So after stitching, you're pretty much done. Just turn it right side out. And you can go ahead and admire your creation. It's very lovely. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and sew my zipper in. Yes, I like using invisible zipper for reasons I don't know. Maybe that's what is available most times. So what you do is just mark your zipper allowance. I had left 1 inch for my zipper allowance. You can as well use buttons. So just pin your invisible zipper. I am just pinning on my fashion fabric. When you pin, you just make sure that everything is properly aligned. I'm pinning it on both sides. I have marked where the joining to the skirts is. So you just stitch that in place. After stitching that in place, don't forget the lining is still open. So what you do is just pull out your lining. That's the lining part. And you pull it over. Make sure that you have the right side facing your fashion fabric. So you're putting it on top of the zip and you're going to stitch that down as well. So there you have it. Your zipper is installed and your dress is ready. So on the inside, you're going to have a nice finishing as well as on the outside. Just for added pop to this dress, I have added a sash to it. So it's just a random sash attached to the dress by a belt loop. I have a video on how to make a belt loop on this channel, so please do well to check it out. So if this video was helpful, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up, share the video, like, and I want to say a big thank you. See you in the next video. Bye for now.